like to welcome you to the Brain Optimization class. We're here right now to see what the changes in the brain waves are. We have Christine here as our model, and we're going to see what the brain waves look like in a default mode without doing anything. And then we're going to try different things, like the auditory changes that happen with Tibetan bowls and crystal bowls and the little chimes. And then we're going to see what happens with sensory input and also with olfactory, where you breathe in certain aromatherapy. And we're going to see which brain waves are responsive, because everyone has different kinds of brain waves. Should I turn this on now? So the different ones are that you're born with certain sensory input. It's the same as having brown eyes or blue eyes. You're born with a certain channel that is more open to each brainwave being responsive to different sensory input. So, for instance, you could be born with the sense of really good visual stimulation, like you look around and everything is visual. I know Christine has that because she's an artist. And so then you can also have a lot of alpha in auditory input. And so when the alpha comes out, a lot of amplitude, which we'll show you in a minute, then that shows that the channel for alpha is really enhanced by auditory. And some people, their theta, the theta waves that are down in the subconscious, those are the ones that are enhanced more by auditory input. And especially with this type of frequency of these beautiful singing bowls, because they have the ability to do binaural beats, which means that there's two different frequencies. One comes in at one level and one comes in at the other, and it comes into the brain, and the difference between the two frequencies can really activate certain brain waves depending on which frequencies it is that creates. So we'll try that. And then the other one is olfactory. So when we have Christine smell something, we'll just put it under her nose here, and we'll see what that does. So everybody's made a little different, and it's kind of fun to see which way you're stacked. So the beta at the top is the fastest brainwave, that is the one we normally think with. It's really activated by being awake and aware and conscious, and being very effective and efficient and thinking of everything you have to do and getting it done. That's the beta waves. And then the next one down, the alpha waves, are the ones that you want to have in order to have a good bridge access between the beta waves and the subconscious, which is down in theta and delta. And those are the slowest waves. So the slowest waves are the ones you have mostly when you're in a creative mind flow, or if you're sleeping, or if you're someone who is a caregiver and is just born with a very empathic personality that you've developed over the years because you've been in the caring industry and you've had lots of practice having empathy for lots of people, lots of compassion, and that shows up in large delta brainwaves, even when you're wide awake. Most of the time people say your delta is only existent when you're sound asleep, which is when you're unconscious. But we know from experience that you can have a lot of big delta waves even when you're wide awake, because it's kind of like your radar antenna that reaches out and feels what is around you and what needs to be done. And then if you have enough alpha, it creates the bridge that goes up into consciousness, so that the alpha forms the bridge. So if there is not enough amplitude of alpha brainwaves, it will be really hard to know what's going on in the unconscious or the subconscious, because it has no way to get up into the conscious mind. And so when we have a certain kind of a brainwave we're looking for, we call it the awakened mind, because the certain ratio of brainwaves that is a certain amount of beta and a big amount of alpha and access to theta and delta in whatever way your setting is. The ideal pattern, if we can get it up and running, would be that you would have these bars sticking out that would show left brain, right brain hemispheres, and that there'd be a minimal amount of beta, which would be just enough to think with but not be overthinking. So that's the thing that gets in the way when you're trying to meditate and trying to clear your mind, is when your chattery mind just doesn't calm down and it's thinking of what it has to do next and what the grocery list is and all those things that makes it distracting to getting into a deeper concentrated state. And then the next one down is the alpha, and you want to have enough of that to really remember what's coming up out of your unconscious. So for instance, if we call the alpha a bridge, and if the alpha bridge is missing, it makes it hard to remember where you left your keys or anything that you're trying to remember. You know, you think about the hereafter a lot. You walk into a room and you think, what am I hereafter? And so that whole feeling of not being able to remember certain things is usually a deficiency in alpha amplitude. And then the theta and the delta are kind of their own animals. They do what they want to do, and it's just nice to see where we can access them and how much we can activate them by doing certain exercises or certain stimuli, like we're going to do this afternoon. We are going to do some things that activate the brain, and they're good for any age. So the samples that we will do, we won't be able to see what's happening in the brain waves, but we know from experience and from research that all these different exercises are good for neuroplasticity, that they actually form new neuronal pathways. So it works for any age. So you can start out with babies, and one of the things that babies need to do is from an early age, they need to crawl in order to develop the certain parts of the brain, the cerebellum especially. And so children who are having a hard time focusing or have a delayed ability to speak or to read are often the ones who haven't crawled enough. And so we show you how to enhance that and make up the difference by doing some cross-crawling exercises that we'll do here. And then the other little samples that we'll show you, and we have a few handouts here, are some of the exercises that help to activate the brain at any age. So for instance, one of the ones that helps the part of the brain that's for speaking, when somebody has had any type of a damage, whether it be a stroke or a head injury or any type of aneurysm or Parkinson's or anything where it affects the speaking, or just hitting your head real hard, getting a concussion. If there's any difficulty speaking, there are all these places on the face that help for activating the vestibular system, which helps with speaking clearly and not having that hesitation where you can't find the words to fit together, or you're trying to think of a word and it doesn't come to you real fast. So the way you do that is you tap on the sides. We're getting some. This is the right brain. This line down the middle is that hemisphere bridge between the two. Thanks. And then looking over here is the left brain. And I know Christine is an artist, so her right brain would normally be way out to here because right brain is more creative. So when we look at this and it's flipping around, what that's doing is just showing how much of the ratio is of beta up here. The green part here is alpha. This is theta, and this is delta. So I kind of knew that. I've known Christine for 40 years, and so I knew she had big delta, because I do too. Pretty much everybody in our family does too. And we can sort of feel that when we reach out and are with someone or we touch someone, which I've done a lot over the years, we can feel that affinity of something like, oh, I know you, you're just like me. And so that big delta there at the bottom is something that normally, if this machine was all hooked up right, this would be all the way out to here also on both sides. And then right here, oh, there we go, Gary, it's working sometimes. Sometimes it gets over here. But so this right here is the beta waves up here, and then the green is the alpha, And now what I want Christine to do is just close your eyes and breathe. And when she does that, the alpha usually expands. So now, this alpha has come out to about here so far on both sides. And I'd like to see if the sound that Wanda is going to do is, and keep your eyes closed and just breathe slowly. Okay, so now go ahead and do the sound healing and we'll watch the alpha and see if it changes. Oh, that made you go deep inside.
Wow. Yeah.
So now it's off to the left, to the right. It really did change something. It's almost like you just went out of body a little bit, but you don't have to open your eyes, just keep them closed. But it really is a different brainwave than before. So just keep breathing slowly and deeply. But that alpha is way out bigger than it was before. So when I say bigger, it means more amplitude out to the side. That's a really nice pattern. How's everybody else feeling? I mean, it's kind of loud for you, but some people have sensitive ears. But what about these? Okay, we're going to just try another. That's nice. That's a nice batch of alpha right there. Oh, very nice. Yeah, this is becoming a really nice awakened mind pattern. We'll have to disregard when one part is missing sometimes.
Oh,
Okay,
you
this.
kind of can still see a little bit.
Ooh, that's a big one. Wow, that made you go out of body, Christine. There, now you're back. Oh, wow, good alpha. That's nice. Okay, smell this.
Wow.
Nice. Smells good. You like that smell? Let's try this one.
What was that one?
That one was a combination. This one's peppermint. Peppermint is really good for activating certain brain. In fact, what you do with peppermint is you just put it on your temples like this, that, and a little bit behind the, right behind the cerebral, the back of the skull, and it activates the brain, and it also gets rid of headaches. Smell that again. See what that did. Big smell. Wow. Yeah, it comes and goes. Nice. So the other thing I wanted you to do was to just take this little ball right here and put this in your hand and squeeze that. Squishy, squishy. Okay, so you are a kinesthetic. There's a lot more amplitude when you do kinesthetic things. That's a squishy thing. And it's very good for when you're feeling stressed. You can take something like that and do sensory things, and it helps calm things down. So it calms down the beta waves. So for today, I think that's all we're going to show on this, and then we're